Hi friends. Please subscribe and help me get my first 1,000 subscribers. It's one click for you, but for me it's a huge encouragement and motivation. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's go. Noah sat on the sectional, mindlessly scrolling through the Netflix menu without actually picking anything. It was a standard Tuesday evening in Seattle, gray drizzle against the window panes. But something about Emma's behavior was off script. She'd been pacing around the kitchen island for 10 minutes, reorganizing clean dishes that did not need reorganizing, clearly working up the nerve to say something. Finally, she appeared in the living room doorway, a mug of herbal tea in her hands. Noah felt the shift in the room's energy and looked up. She had that specific, thoughtful look on her face, like she was rehearsing a pitch deck in her head. "You good?" he asked, trying to keep it casual, though his gut was already tightening. "Yeah," Emma answered a beat too fast, sinking into the armchair opposite him. "Just thinking." "About what?" He narrowed his eyes slightly, trying to read her. She took a small sip, set the mug down on the coffee table, and met his gaze. "About us," she said, her voice soft but deliberate. "I've been wanting to bring this up for a while." Noah set the remote down. His heart rate spiked. He knew that tone. Nothing good ever followed that specific brand of hesitation. "Okay, shoot," he said, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. She looked away, seemingly fascinated by a pattern on the area rug. "You know, we've become so predictable," she started carefully. "I am not saying it's bad, but do not you feel like we re-stuck in a loop? Like we just running on autopilot?" He frowned. Predictable? Their life in the Pacific Northwest was stable, sure, but he viewed that as a feature, not a bug. They had the condo, the careers, the plans. "I am not sure I am following," he said slowly, careful not to jump to conclusions. Emma sighed, her shoulders dropping as if she was finally committing to the jump. "Noah, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I was talking to Olivia. You know how she is with all those modern relationship dynamics. She was telling me how some couples actually get stronger when they give each other a little more bandwidth, more freedom." He stared at her, feeling a cold drop of dread slide down his spine. "What exactly are you saying?" he asked, though the sinking feeling in his stomach already gave him the answer. "An open marriage," she said, trying to keep her voice level. "It does not mean there's anything wrong with us. I think it could be healthy. For both of us." A heavy silence settled over the room, broken only by the hum of the heater and the rain tapping against the glass. Noah looked at her, struggling to process the request. "Are you serious?" His voice was tight, barely under control. Emma nodded, avoiding his eyes, her fingers nervously picking at the hem of her sweater. "I know it sounds intense, but do not you ever want to try something new? Step outside the box a little? Something new?" He stood up and started pacing the hardwood floor. "You say that like we rediscussing trying a new Thai place in Capitol Hill, not blowing up our entire marriage." Her eyes tracked him. Despite her calm exterior, he could see the tension radiating off her. "Noah, stop being dramatic," she said. "It's just a concept. An idea." He stopped dead and turned to face her. "An idea you got after chatting with Olivia? Or is there more to it?" His voice hardened. "Does this have anything to do with that guy from your office, Liam?" Emma froze. For a split second, something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Panic? That he could not quite place. But it was enough to make his suspicion flare into certainty. "What does Liam have to do with this?" she snapped. "You looking for problems that do not exist." "Am I?" He crossed his arms over his chest. "Then why have you been bringing him up so much lately? Why is your phone lighting up with texts from him at 11 at night?" She looked down, composing herself. "Liam is just a friend," she said firmly. "This conversation is not about him. It's about us." He let out a short, humorless laugh and resumed pacing. "About us?" he repeated, tasting the bitterness of the words. An open relationship, and I am supposed to believe this is for us? Zero outside influence? Her voice grew sharper. You being irrational, she stated. We just talking. I am not demanding anything. Just sit with the idea for a minute. But he could already feel the anger boiling over. Her words spun in his head, leaving a toxic aftertaste. He stopped in front of her, forcing himself to breathe. Fine, he said finally. I'll think about it. She relaxed slightly, looking relieved. But deep down, Noah knew the damage was already done. That conversation had opened a crack in their foundation that was not going to just patch itself up. The morning started quiet. Too quiet. Noah woke up before his alarm and lay there for a long time, staring at the gray ceiling. Emma had already left for work, leaving his favorite dark roast in his travel mug on the counter. Any other day, that would have been a sweet gesture. Today, it felt like a bribe. The phrase open relationship was looping in his brain. He dragged himself out of bed, rubbed his face, and headed to the shower. Under the hot spray, he tried to untangle the knot in his chest. Anger? Suspicion? Disappointment? It was a cocktail of all three. Her buzzwords about novelty and freedom rang hollow, while the name Liam flashed in his mind like a warning light. When Emma got home that evening, her greeting was casual, as if the previous night's grenade had not gone off. How was your day? She asked, opening the stainless steel fridge. Noah sat at the dining table watching her. Her breeziness was infuriating, but he decided to let her dig the hole. Fine, he answered curtly, taking a sip of water. She shot him a quick glance, catching the frost in his tone. Are you still mad about yesterday? She asked cautiously, shutting the fridge door. Mad is not the word, he said, pushing his chair back and standing up. I'm still trying to figure out where the hell that came from. Emma frowned, her grip on her water bottle tightening just a fraction. Noah, we talked about this. It was just a thought. He walked slowly to the table, leaning his hands on the edge. And what about Liam? He asked, locking eyes with her. Her face went blank for a second, caught off guard, but she recovered quickly. Why do you keep bringing him up? Her voice went defensive. I do not know, he shrugged, but his gaze was razor sharp. Maybe it's the constant texting. Or maybe it's the way you laugh at his jokes. A sound I have not heard you make around me in a long time. She set the bottle down on the counter a little harder than necessary. Are you serious right now? You think I am suggesting this for Liam? That's ridiculous, Noah. Ridiculous, he scoffed. Then explain to me why, the second I say his name, you look like you just got caught red-handed? Her face flushed, a mottled red creeping up her neck. She crossed her arms tightly, a classic defensive posture. You seeing things that are not there. She deflected. You've always been like this, spiraling, making up scenarios in your head instead of just communicating. Okay, let's communicate. Noah's voice rose, filling the small space between them. Give it to me straight. Is there something going on between you and Liam? She let out a breath, her shoulders sagging, but her gaze held steady. No, she said clearly. There is absolutely nothing going on. He is a colleague and a friend. That's it. Noah took a step closer, stopping just outside her personal space. Then why pitch this? Open marriage, freedom, novelty. It all sounds like you looking for a hall pass. Like you need an excuse to justify something else. Emma shook her head, her voice trembling. Not with sadness, but with anger. You do not get it. This is not about Liam. It's about us. It's about the fact that we've stalled out. Stalled out? He stepped in closer. And you think the fix for a stalled engine is to invite other people into the car? She turned away, grabbing her water bottle but not drinking from it. She stared out the window at the dark, wet street for a few seconds, as if the answer was written in the streetlights. It's just a way to break the routine, she said finally, turning back to him. You have no idea how heavy it feels, doing the exact same thing every single day. I want a spark again, Noah. A spark. He chuckled, but it was a dry, hollow sound. Sparks happen when two people actually work on their shit, Emma. Not when they run for the nearest exit. Her eyes flared. You think I am running? She stepped toward him, her volume rising to match his. You want to know what I think? I think you terrified of change. You've always been this way, clinging to the safety net, scared to death of anything different. He backed away, running a hand down his face, trying to wipe away the exhaustion. Maybe I am scared of change, he said quietly. But you know what scares me more? Losing you. Her expression softened, but only for a heartbeat. She turned away again, leaning her hip against the counter. We lost each other a long time ago, she said, refusing to look at him. I am just trying to find a way to get us back. Noah stood in the doorway watching her. She looked simultaneously familiar and like a total stranger. He wanted to say something else, to fight for it, but the words died in his throat. The silence in the room felt heavy, physical, like a thick fog rolling off the Puget Sound, separating them completely. The rain lashed against the bedroom windows, turning the view of the city into a blurred watercolor mess. Noah sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting on his knees, staring at the hardwood floor. Emma had just walked out, her footsteps fading down the hallway. He could feel it in his bones. This was the end. The words, "I want a divorce," had not been spoken, but they hung in the silence that had swallowed the room. He stood up, walked slowly to the closet, and pulled out his gym duffel. His hands moved on autopilot, tossing in a few button-downs, a couple of pairs of Levi's, and his toiletries. It felt like a grim ritual. He was not just packing clothes, he was dismantling his life item by item. When he came downstairs, Emma was sitting on the sofa with a fresh cup of coffee. Her face was composed, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside. She looked up and saw the bag. You leaving? She asked. No surprise in her voice, just resignation. Yeah, he answered shortly. Think it's best for both of us right now. She set the mug on the coaster and sighed. For a split second, she looked regretful, but the mask of indifference slid back into place. Where are you gonna crash? Her voice was calm, bordering on polite concern. Lucas's place, he said. He said it's cool. She nodded but did not say anything else. The script had run out. Noah grabbed his North Face jacket, hoisted the duffel bag, and walked out the door without looking back. The cold Seattle mist hit his face instantly, and he inhaled deeply, tasting the damp air. Tasted like freedom. Lucas's apartment in Capitol Hill was cramped but lived in. His buddy, who'd gone through a messy divorce the year before, did not need an explanation. They spent a few hours drinking IPAs and talking about nothing, distractions, but the next morning, reality hit Noah like a hangover. He woke up early on the couch, staring at a crack in the ceiling, feeling a hollow ache in his chest. That night, unable to sleep, he was doomed scrolling on his phone when he stumbled across a meetup group, PNW Weekend Hikers, Beginner's Welcome. He paused. He needed to get out of the city, out of his head, out of the loop of memories playing on repeat. The next day, Noah signed up for the Saturday hike. A few weeks later, the trails had become his therapy. He started recognizing the regulars making small talk about gear and elevation gains. One of them, a guy named John, asked if he wanted to help with a trail maintenance volunteer crew. Noah said yes. Felt like forward motion. One afternoon, halfway up a switchback on Mount Si, he realized he was smiling. He was not thinking about why. He just realized that the small things, cracking a joke with the crew, the burn in his calves, the sun breaking through the overcast sky, were actually making him feel something other than numbness. Noah thought about how far he was drifting from the man who used to share a mortgage with Emma. But he stopped himself from spiraling into the what comes next. For the first time, he was learning to just be where his feet were. It had only been a few days since Emma moved her stuff into Liam's place. His apartment felt like a hard reset. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking South Lake Union, sleek modern furniture, smart lights in every corner. It was a sharp contrast to the cozy, slightly cluttered vibe of the condo she shared with Noah. This place screamed success and new beginnings, and she desperately wanted to believe she made the right call. Liam was attentive, charming, and always knew how to make her laugh, a skill she thought she lost. Their first few days were a blur of passion and ease. It felt like they were a perfect match. She was sure she finally found what was missing, but by the end of the first week, the vibe shifted. One evening, they were sitting at his kitchen island, sharing a bottle of expensive cab. Liam swirled his glass, looking thoughtful. "You know," he started, his tone casual, "I've been thinking about us, and how we can take things to the next level." Emma smiled, assuming he meant planning a trip to Napa or maybe something about the apartment. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, leaning in. Liam took a sip, set the glass down, and leaned toward her. "I think we should try something new. Mix it up a little." He paused. "Like bringing in a third." She blinked, the words not quite registering. "A third?" she repeated, trying to keep the confusion off her face. "You mean a threesome?" "Yeah," he nodded, as if he were suggesting they order takeout. "I have this friend, a girl I used to know. We talked about the lifestyle before, and I thought, why not? Could be fun." Liam's words hit her like a sudden drop in cabin pressure. Emma sat there, staring at him, her brain trying to buffer the information. A dozen thoughts fired at once, each one forcing her to realize just how wide the gap was between her fantasy of this relationship and the reality sitting across from her. Are you dead serious?" she finally managed to choke out. "Totally," he answered, flashing that easy smile, like he just suggested trying a new brunch spot in Ballard. "I am sure it'll only make us stronger. It's all about transparency, right?" She fell silent, her chest tightening. His words that had once sounded so progressive and liberating to her, now felt like a slap in the face. "So you want me to," she faltered, the words tasting like ash, "to share you with someone else?" Liam chuckled, clearly missing the fact that her voice was shaking with a cocktail of rage and hurt. "It's not about sharing, Emma," he started, swirling his wine again. "It's about exploring together. Did not you say you were open to breaking the mold? To experimenting?" The callback hit her hard. It was a distorted echo of her own voice, saying almost the exact same thing to Noah weeks ago about novelty and freedom. Now, sitting across from Liam, she felt the precise, jagged sting that Noah must have felt when she proposed detonating their marriage. "And what if I say hard pass?" she asked, barely keeping the tremor out of her voice. Liam shrugged, as if her consent was a minor logistical detail. "You can say no," he replied coolly, "but just sit with it. I just want us both to have a good time." That phrase, "have a good time," snapped the last thread of her patience. She shot up from the barstool, her face burning with humiliation. "A good time?" Her voice spiked. "You honestly think I am going to have a good time watching you hook up with someone else while I sit there?" Liam looked at her with maddening calm, as if she were a child throwing a tantrum in a grocery store. "Emma, you re-spiraling. You being dramatic," he said, standing up. "'s just a concept. If it's not your vibe, we drop it." But she was not listening anymore. Her mind was reeling, inevitably drifting back to what she had traded for this hollow version of excitement. Noah might have been predictable, as she labeled him, but he never made her feel like an accessory to his lifestyle. He never made her feel disposable. The rest of the night passed in a suffocating silence. Liam fell asleep instantly, unbothered, while Emma lay awake, staring at the recessed lighting fixtures. Every moment of the last week replayed in her head, and with every scene, the tears became harder to fight back. The realization hit her like a cold front. She had messed up, badly. Everything she had chased, everything that felt so vital, was a mirage. Liam was not her fresh start. He was just a mirror reflecting her own bad decisions. Before the sun came up, she packed a bag, left her key fob on the quartz countertop, and walked out. She did not know where she was going, But she knew she could not stay there. A classic Seattle gray greeted Emma that morning, fog hugging the skyscrapers, dampening the sounds of the city. She sat on the windowsill of her temporary sublet, clutching a mug of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. Outside, the morning commute was grinding along I-5, but her head was miles away. She unlocked her iPhone to check the news, but muscle memory took over, and she found herself doomed scrolling through Instagram. When the algorithm served up his photo. Noah. He was standing on a summit. Looks like it was somewhere in the Olympics or maybe Mailbox Peak, bathed in rare golden sunlight. His face was glowing, his smile wide and genuine, crinkling the corners of his eyes. He was wearing a new Patagonia shell, holding a tin camping mug. Behind him, jagged peaks rolled out into the distance, softened by a layer of mist. The caption was short, "Finding peace." Emma froze. Her heart seized as the reality of his transformation sank in. The Noah she had dismissed as boring and stagnant looked like a completely different person. Free, alive, grounded. She pinched the screen to zoom in, scanning his face for any sign of misery, but found none. Memories flooded her system, cold and sharp. She remembered their old trips to Leavenworth, how he carried her over a muddy patch on the trail when she was complaining about her boots, how they laughed over burnt marshmallows. She remembered his hands that were always there to catch her, even when she did not realize she was falling. But that felt like a different timeline now. Noah belonged to a world she had voluntarily exiled herself from. She closed the app, tossed the phone onto the cushion, and stared out at the drizzle. Her mind was a torture chamber of what-ifs. What if she had not pitched the open marriage? What if she had not let Liam's attention turn her head? What if she had just appreciated the stability she had? The day dragged on. Emma tried to log into Slack and get some work done, but her focus was shot. By evening, climbing the walls, she drove down to Green Lake just to get some air. She grabbed a hot chocolate and sat on a damp bench near the water. The lake was still, reflecting the steel gray sky and the turning leaves of the maples. A burst of laughter caught her attention. Two teenagers racing past on bikes, roasting each other. The sound triggered a visceral memory. Noah convincing her to rent bikes on the Burke-Gilman Trail, despite her insisting she had not ridden since middle school. He laughed when she wobbled into the grass. But then he spent the next 10 minutes patiently helping her find her balance, wiping a smudge of dirt off her cheek with his thumb. The nostalgia hit her in waves, pulling her under. These memories did not bring warmth anymore. They just brought the ache of a phantom limb. Her chest felt heavy, a void opening up where her certainty used to be. Back at the apartment, Emma put the kettle on and picked up her phone again. She tortured herself, scrolling through his profile. It was not just the mountain photo. There was a shot of him with a group of people around a bonfire, probably that hiking club he mentioned. There was one of him on a kayak in Lake Union, grinning at someone off camera. Another of him toasting with a craft beer in a crowded brewery. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt the tears spill over. She locked the screen, tried to clean the kitchenette, tried to busy herself, but the silence was deafening. She went to the closet and pulled out a shoebox she dragged with her during the move. She set it on the coffee table and lifted the lid. Inside were the artifacts of a dead civilization. A framed photo of them squinting into the sun at Pier 39 in San Francisco. A tiny Hot Wheels car he bought her as a gag gift when she kept talking about wanting a Tesla. A smooth, gray stone they picked up on Ruby Beach years ago. She traced the edge of the frame, and the dam broke. She sat there, sobbing into the quiet room. These were not just trinkets. They were pieces of a life she had dismantled with her own hands. Later, lying in the unfamiliar bed, sleep refused to come. Her thoughts were stuck on a loop. If I had just chosen differently, but the universe did not offer do-overs. There was only the heavy, crushing realization that Noah had found his trail, and she was still lost in the woods. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.